Hi, Jacqueline here. And tonight we're going to be talking about 5 ways that we harden to love when what we really want to do is soften to it. I am, many of you know that follow my channel, I love talking about love and sensuality and sexuality. And one of the reasons is because that when love is hard, life is hard. It's hard to feel like our life is full and happy and going really well when things are not going well in love. And I am definitely with you in the sense that I have struggled with finding a way to really like love well and to open up to it. So I want to talk about 5 reasons that I've caught myself hardening even when what I really wanted to do was soften. And I think so many of us we learn these ways of hardening when we're little, and we just kind of carry it through and we don't really realize it. And so I want to share these with you in hopes that if some of these resonate and you realize like, oh my gosh, I do that too, or oh my gosh, I've struggled with that as well, that you one can know that awareness alone is huge, and two, that it is totally changeable. I will share one of the reasons I am so passionate about this is I'm like, I feel like in relationship, there were so many times where I would feel like I was in this like emotional boxing match where like my partner and I would have these reoccurring conversations that didn't go well, these reoccurring arguments where we'd feel hurt. And it was this really crazy cycle where we would say hurtful things. I would say things I wished I didn't say, and then we'd go to bed feeling hurt, feeling worn out. And then the next day it was so normal for me to kind of like send a message and say, oh, I love you and I want today to be better, and then to like go back to the same crap the next day. It was like crazy, right? Crazy sometimes. And I imagine some of you can relate to those moments where you're like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, are we doing the same thing again? So I'm hoping that what I'm going to share with you today will inspire you to just think about where some of that stuckness and where those habits are coming from. Because I know initially this can be hard. And I want you to hear that one of the reasons it's hard is that it goes way, way back to where with things that we learn as children. And so this is the good thing, but this is one of the reasons that I'm so passionate now about really diving into and understanding family trauma, because that's where so much of the gold is to really set ourselves free so that we can enjoy love. And because when have a greater capacity to love, then life gets easier in so many incredible ways. So we want to do that. We want to free ourselves up to love and to live in ways that feel better and better. Okay. So, right before I get into those 5 reasons that we harden when what we really want to do is soften, if you enjoy this content and you're intrigued and you want to learn more about how to expand your capacity to love and shift from feeling stuck to passionate yourself, and how in like and how like shifting your relationship to how you love can really set you free, then you can check the link in the description below where I share more about the course I'm offering right now called Paralyzed to Passionate, which has both online modules and live components, which I'm super excited about. So feel free to check the link to that below if you enjoy this content that we're about to go over. So here we go. So 5 reasons that we harden to love when what we really want to do is soften. So the first reason is that we learn that love is restrictive in some way and conditional. This is so important because we're going to be so much more reserved about softening and opening our hearts if we learn that we're loved if we do certain things and we're not loved well if we do other things. And so many of us learn this. I think it's rare that some of us grow up where we're like unconditionally loved. No matter what we do, we know that love is always available. And it's something that we don't really get as kids that I find we have to learn as adults. And so, just this fact alone that we learn that love is available with conditions or with certain restrictions, that sets us up to have our guard up. So know that in those times where you grew up and you were younger and you knew, oh, I'm approved of if I do this thing, but I'm not approved of if I do this thing. That can be a reason that you start to kind of harden and keep your guard up a little bit. The second reason is we learn that others are responsible for how we feel, and we are responsible for how they feel. I first learned this concept through a physician and a speaker and a teacher called Gabor Mate, who's done a lot of work around trauma and healing. He's an amazing, amazing guy to look up and watch his videos for. But when I really learned that and got that we take on often in our childhood, because when we have these experiences where if we do something our parents like, we were like, oh, if I do this, they're going to be happy, right? Like we want those things. But what starts to happen is we notice more and more that, like, oh, I have to do this for my parents to be happy. And then when our parents are happy, we're happy. And if they're not, then we're not. And it can start this kind of tricky cycle of thinking that we're responsible for how other people feel. And when we believe that we're responsible for how other people feel, it makes relationship really, really messy, because then we just naturally start to lose the knowing that we are actually responsible for our own well-being. And I think in order to love well, we have to really understand and know that, oh, like I am responsible for how I feel, and I can own that. And I think that that's a practice a lot of us have to learn, because that can be a really, really, really tough one. This is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about understanding our relationship to control, because I think so many of us learn it without even realizing it. So that's another reason we soften or we harden, or we put our guard up, is we get this soaked in experience that, oh, I'm responsible for how they feel, and they're responsible for how I feel. And so there's kind of a sense that we have to manage things, which can get really sticky. So the third reason that we end up hardening and putting our guard up, and this is again another thing that we learn, is that we start to doubt that we will be supported and that we can't ask for help. Right. And if we have experiences where we wanted to ask for help and it wasn't available, or we tried to ask for support and it wasn't available in the way that would have felt good at the time, right? We can start to learn and take on, like, oh, I can't ask for what I want. I can't get what I want. Right. And this isn't necessarily a truth at all for our adult realities, but it really, really can start to be something that we say to ourselves and start to replay, that we are can't ask for the support that we need. And that creates a whole mess when we're adults and we want to ask for the things that we want. So it's really important. And I encourage you just to think like, do I have this thought that I can't ask for what I want? Or if I ask for what I want, I won't be supported. Or or am I not getting support even outside of my partner or my friends because I'm and I won't be supported? Because chances are, if that's the case, there might be like a little you that has this story that you're not going to be supported, but that's something that you can totally change so that you can start to feel support in new ways, to soften and let love in new ways. So that's a great one to pay attention to as well. The fourth one, this one is very near and dear to my heart, is that we believe that our contribution is just what we do and not who we are. And the reason I love this one and have so much passion for it is that if we associate that what we contribute and what we deserve love for is just what we do, what happens is, again, we can fall into habits of really managing our behavior, managing what we do, trying to do the right things, avoid the wrong things. But what happens is we don't allow ourselves to truly express what we want to and share ourselves in ways that feel authentic. We hold ourselves back, we aren't expressing our truth, and so we naturally start to feel like we have to be more guarded in those moments, right? Because we can't just feel like we can be ourselves, we have to be doing something. And what I want you to hear here, and this is, I think, a thing that we can really pay attention to, especially those of us, including me, that fall into that habit of being a people pleaser or really wanting to care for and pay attention to what's going on outside of us and how others are doing and what we can do to make them feel better is, and this, by the way, is really, really easy to happen for women. It happens for men too, for sure, but this is a really easy thing for women to fall into, is just thinking like, oh, I gotta just do, and I gotta just do for them and take care of this. And what's important is not who I am. When we notice that's happening, it's so, so good to pause. And what I want you to know right off the bat, just here, is that who you are and what you have to give and offer the world is so much more than just what you do, right? What you do in your household and what you do in your job. You are so much more than that. And you have so much more value than just those tasks that you might take on in a day. And I think more and more, and I notice for myself, the more I embrace this idea that what I contribute to the world is so much more than just what I do and the stuff I do. There's so many layers, including like what feels right and true for me and what lights me up and what makes me feel good. And the more that we can embrace all of those things and get past that layer that my value comes from just what I do, that also can start to let us soften. All right. And then number 5, which is one of my favorites. These are all my favorites. I love these reasons because when you can get uncover these reasons and start to let them go, oh my gosh, everything in life gets easier. So the the fifth reason that we harden and what we really want to do is soften is we fall into a trap of thinking that we or others are a problem that needs to be fixed. And again, this is one of those things that we can take on, and I feel like I hear this all the time when I'm coaching and I'm working with people. I hear all the time people saying like, "Oh, I just have to like, improve myself, or I have to like take this and make myself better, or I have to like fix myself and figure out what's wrong with me." That is actually the part of the thing that keeps us stuck, is believing that we are a problem to be fixed, right? We don't do this on purpose, right? This isn't something we try to do. We don't wake up in the morning and we're like, I'm going to see myself as a problem that needs to be fixed. No, we don't do that. It just happens, and part of what happens goes all the way back to little us who's doing our best. And this happens in so many of our families, where we accidentally take on, or just by immersion in our family environments, take on that things need to be fixed, right? That emotions need to be fixed, that things that are wrong are problems and need to be fixed. But what actually allows us to soften is embracing this idea that we are not problems that need to be fixed. Our emotions aren't problems that need to be fixed. Our desires aren't problems that need to be fixed. All of that is just part of what makes us human and allows us to really express ourselves, right? And the more that we're able to feel permission to feel what we feel and to have the desires we have and express ourselves more and more in ways that feel true and authentic, the easier it is to let love in. So, the reason that I love sharing these reasons that we harden when what we really want to do is soften is because when we can become more and more aware of those moments where we're like, oh my gosh, I'm being conditionally loving with myself. I'm telling myself that I'm good if I do this, or I'm bad if I do this. Or I'm telling myself that I can't feel better until this person does what I want them to do. Or I can't feel better unless I'm doing this stuff for that person. Like all of that stuff, what it does is it forces us to harden, right? And I say forces us, but it's more like just it's a habit. It's a habit of thinking, oh, I have to respond this way in order for love to be available, or in order to get what I want and what I need. But what happens is, instead of letting love in, it gets us in a place where we're more trying to manage what's happening around us and how we're responding to the world, which ends up it ends up hardening us by accident. And so these are great things to just notice if you're doing them, where they're showing up for you, So we'll do a little really brief wrap up of it. And then definitely if you're watching this video or you're watching this video on the replay too, feel free to put in comments or questions because this is a really, really big topic that has so much juiciness to it. So the 5 reasons we harden, just things to pay attention to. One, noticing where in your life that you are believing that love is conditional, that you can get it at some times and you can't get it at other times, whether it's with other people or within yourself. The second is to the second, I always mix up with my fingers. The second is to notice where you're thinking, oh, I'm responsible for how that person feels and they're responsible for how I feel. Where are you kind of making yourself not responsible or other people responsible for how you feel? That's another gold mine of information. You also want to notice if you are doubting that you're going to be supported, and because of that, holding back sharing your desires. Great area to notice where we could be like holding back from really letting love in without realizing it. The other piece, the fourth piece, is are you believing that what you contribute is just what you do and not who you are? Again, it naturally, without even trying, it contributes to feeling more hardened and not feeling as connected in love and soft enough to kind of really be ourselves in love. And then the fifth reason is thinking that we are a problem to be fixed. This is a great, great, great one. So notice where you have those moments where you're like, what's wrong with me? Or, oh my gosh, like I need to fix myself, or how I respond to this, or I need to improve myself, especially when it comes to your emotional states. If you have those moments, those are great moments to just imagine that Jacqueline is with you, just having telling you, encouraging you to just take a breath, take an exhale, and remember there's nothing wrong with you. You're a human who's doing life the best you can, and you're going to have emotions and needs come up, and all of those in those moments are actually asking to be nurtured. So I hope that you enjoy these. I hope that you find yourself in one of these because I think these are really, really common. And notice, as I mentioned earlier, even just having awareness of these come up is massive because that awareness slowly starts to have you realize more and more, oh my gosh, I'm doing that and I see how it's showing up. So play with these, see what awarenesses come up. Definitely leave a comment below. I will be checking comments and I can respond and definitely use those comments for future videos as well. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you enjoy this content and you want to go deeper, you want to understand how you can expand your capacity for love, but do it in a way where you can shift yourself out of a place where you might be feeling stuck and really open up to feeling more passionate about your life in general. Take a look at the link below. I have a course right now I'm offering called Paralyzed to Passionate, which is all about really connecting with yourself more, understanding what makes you human, expanding your capacity to love. There's 6 online modules, and we're also going to have live components of a group coaching call and an ongoing monthly call to really be able to like work on this content and like get to integrate all this material with me over time. So if you're curious about that and you're like, yes, I want some help with this, well, I totally get it. I've needed a bunch of help with this. So definitely check that link below. And of course, if you enjoy my videos and you want to follow me, subscribe. And then there's also details as well on how to get on my email list. So you can do that too if you'd like. Wishing you an amazing day. I'm realizing, I think for this live, I accidentally did not have the chat open. So I apologize because I see a few people on with me. But feel free to leave a comment. It's such a joy to share with you all as always. Wishing you an amazing day, and I'll see you soon.